Namaskar and welcome to another module on human geography. The lecture today is on dichotomy or dualism in human geography. Until now, we have learned about the nature and scope of human geography, the branches of human geography, and human and environment relationships. So far, the going has been a bit easier. And with this module on dichotomy or dualism, it is a bit difficult territory. The subject is getting a little complex. So let's look at what is dichotomy and what is dualism. Are they the same or are they different? Dichotomy is a division or contrast between two things that are or are represented as being opposed or entirely different. It is a repeated branching into two equal parts. A dichotomy is also defined as a split into two parts which are considered to be either contradictory or mutually exclusive. To give a very simple example, an everyday example, the colors black and white represent a classic dichotomy. Either something is black or it is white, with no room for overlap or alternatives. Dichotomies are used in a number of ways and in an assortment of fields, from philosophy to biology. And learning to think about dichotomies can be important. It is also a good idea to learn to identify a false dichotomy, a dichotomy which is really not. In other words, the opposite of a true dichotomy. Now let's turn to the word dualism. Dualism stems from the Latin word duo, meaning two, and denotes a state of two parts. The term dualism was originally coined to denote co-eternal binary opposition, a meaning that is preserved in metaphysical and philosophical duality discourses, but has been diluted in general or common usages. Dualisms can refer to, for example, moral dualism, that is the conflict between good and evil, or mind-body or mind-matter dualism, or physical dualism. For example, the Chinese have a dualism known as the yin and yang. Now, getting back to geography, in geography as well as in human geography, there are such dichotomies. Now, they relate primarily to the broader branches of geography or the broader focuses of geography. To take examples, there is general geography and regional geography. And as we have already seen, there is a physical geography versus human geography, determinist geography versus possibilist geography. Likewise, historical geography versus contemporary geography, and to take a micro example, formal site studies versus functional location studies. Let me add that the dichotomies exist in all of us. Whether we like it or not, most of us are either dual or multiple. There are multiple personalities in one and the same person. It is possible the person knows the split personality he has. As humans have split, dual, or multiple personalities in their lives, in the day-to-day life, they also have such splits, what we call dichotomies or dualisms, in what they study. So in geography, we have dualisms as well as dichotomies. If you take the roots of geography, which is also the same for human geography or any branch of human geography, the fundamental root is exploration. Through exploration, understanding of the physical world, and mapping societies and understanding societies. To take an example, in high school geography, we learn a geography of the inventory type. For example, where is what? So, in contemporary collegiate or university geography, we are integrated. We bridge disciplines. We have already seen under the branches of human geography that social, cultural, political, population, and other geographies borrow or take ideas from subjects external to geography. In physical human dichotomy, also we have a bridge. The two are integrated, and the two span physical as well as social sciences. Physical geography and human geography have their own methods and tools, and there are also common methods used in both. And such methods are complementary to each other. In topical and regional dichotomy, for example, you have urban versus Latin America. Urban could be urban studies, urban geography. Latin America is definitely regional geography. But even within regional Latin America geography, we learn about urban places in Latin America. That we are being topical as well as regional at the same time. So topical complements the regional geography of Latin America, and regional geography complements the urban studies of Latin America. So regional geography is integrative, uses many topical geographies to understand an area. Topical geography also is integrative because it recognizes knowledge from related fields and draws on many different places to understand the topics. So what distinguishes geography as a dualistic or dichotomous subject? Concerned with phenomena on Earth's surface, geography distinguishes landscape. It distinguishes natural and cultural landscapes. It encompasses, therefore, physical and social sciences, or physical and human geography. Sometimes there's what is called isomorphism. Isomorphism really means in structure there may be similarities. To take an example, take spatial point of view or spatial perspective. Spatial perspective or spatial point of view relates to where why, and what sort of spatial patterns there are in places. In other words, we look at place similarities and place differences. It is common knowledge, if you look for differences, you automatically find similarities. That is easy to identify similarities from looking at dissimilarities. So there is an integrative approach that the spatial point of view uses in analyzing place differences or place similarities. Take the case of sense of place. In the sense of place, there is also a regionality. A regionality is a formal statistical base together with an informal casual base. Take another example, the map. The map is one picture but equivalent to 10,000 words. Now when we look at Indian regional geography or regional human geography of India, our understanding is that in regional human geography, we would study about physical features and we would also study about human features. In systematic human geography, we would do so as well as look at geographic elements or study them through the use of scientific methodologies which make human geography more systematic. Indian geography therefore belongs to regional geography with synthesis characteristics. Take a look at dichotomy in modern human geography. Modern human geography is an intersecting subject on both natural sciences and social sciences. For example, we look at basic geography as overlapping applications geography or applied geography. In applied geography, for example, we will look at natural resources and environments and try to understand how natural resources and environmental resources are being used by humans. So taking Indian geography as such, it combines geosciences and resources and environment with basic and application characteristics. So let's talk about a dichotomy as a viewpoint, as a synthesis, and as a representation. As a viewpoint, it talks about places, spaces, and scales, how big or how small are the places and spaces that we study. As a synthesis, we look at physical subfields and human subfields, and also human physical interaction. And as a representation, we look at visual display, description, and things like geographical information system, and also psychological perception. So human geography looks at the world from the viewpoint of geographic space by synthesizing ideas from different disciplines and developing special techniques to represent and manipulate spatial information on places and spaces at different scales. Geography at a broader level, as we have seen, can be considered as physical and human, each having a number of branches. We've already seen the branches of human geography. Branches of physical geography or also as many as human geographic branches. In systematic geography, geography is divided into human and physical geography, where human geography examines economic, social, and behavioral processes, whereas physical geography examines natural processes and are generally composed of biogeography, climatology, and geomorphology. Now let's take a dichotomy example. The example is nature versus culture. The nature versus culture distinction is one of the most visible oppositions in Western culture. For the most part, culture is considered superior to nature in the Western culture. For the most part, nature is considered superior to culture in the Eastern geography. A modern consensus of cultural relativism has made the old conception of nature with a capital anachronism. There are stereotypical oppositions based on division between nature and culture. Some examples are men, women, ritual, political, biological childbirth, mind and body, social, domestic, cultural, natural, and so on. Now, looking at these stereotypical oppositions, nature and culture can be understood in the context of all of them. Now, let's say, what is the great debate about dichotomy or dualism? In a social science, it's about what shapes us, both as individuals and as members of society. And what are those? Is it nature or is it culture? Is it inherited genetic predisposition, which is actually nature, or what we learn as we grow up, which is culture, that predominantly shapes us and our differences as individuals? For example, anthropologists ask how much of our behavior as a group is predetermined by geography, culture, or history. Studies increasingly indicate what most of us know from common sense. These differences between us as individuals and those between groups of people can be explained by no single factor alone, but only by the complex interaction between them. It really means there are several factors which determine these differences that we as humans pose. And consider human abilities and skills. Which of them are natural and which of them are cultural? The skills we possess are not only cultural, they are capabilities inside our bodies. They are as much biological as cultural. Culture, in some sense, is not something added on to human organisms. It is a measure of difference between them. Culture is indeed a measure of difference between individuals as well as groups of people. So, let's look at an explanation of dichotomy. The dichotomy between nature and culture, for example, can be partially explained by Darwin's theory of evolution. As you know, Darwin's theory of evolution, as we have seen before, has what we call the natural selection. It also has ideas such as survival of the fittest. Now, how do human beings survive in a world of, say, problems? Take another example of colonial legacy of anthropology, where non-Western societies served as a contrast for researchers to complex and modern society of the West, but also by the ways of differentiation. That by looking at the non-Western societies such as ours, they have been able to contrast the complex and modern society of the West, or the one. Now, there are certain ways we tell differences between people. We'll learn about them as we go along. But to name some of these factors, for example, race is one, genetics is another, the environment, religion, economy, technology and development, or others. To take race and genetics are natural or biology. On the other hand, religion, economy and technology are cultural. So we differentiate peoples, different groups of people, or different people of different countries through natural as well as cultural factors. The two categories, natural and cultural, can overlap since there has been an underlying assumption that those with the most advanced culture are also better naturally. That is, they have the best natural endowment, genes, intelligence, strength. It might amount to racistic view. But nature-culture dichotomy. Who judges about advanced versus primitive? Whose scale was being used as a standard for differentiating advanced races or primitive races? Advanced in what sense? To take a few examples, take a factor such as kinship. Australian Aborigines' kinship system is the most complex as well as religious. Take another example, technology locomotion. Some of the Western nations are dependent on the technology locomotion, more so than most others. Take such things as meditative practices. Hindus or Zen Buddhists are most sophisticated in the use of meditative practices. For us, kinship of Australian Aborigines, technology locomotion of the Western nations, and meditative practices of Hindus and Zen Buddhists are equally advanced. 19th century social theorists ranked peoples on an evolutionary, progressive, unilinear, and universal scale of cultures. They put themselves at the top. A unilinear path for civilization is only one scale and one orientation, up and west. So, in differentiating nature and culture, nature versus cultural, some scientists have been biased in their studied opinion of nature and culture. Now, it's time for us to wind up the dichotomy. As we have seen so far, there are dichotomous or dualistic approaches in any discipline. And in geography, we have physical and human geography, environmentalist and possibilist geography. We also have topical and regional geography. Although each one of them is different, they use different methods and tools. They are essentially complementary. One complements the other The physical complements human, topical complements regional, and thus all of them are integrative, bridging different ideas. Thank you.